Welcome. Today we're going to talk about stories. We all tell ourselves stories. It's how we perceive life. It's how we give meaning to the experiences that happen to us in our life. And in fact, we all tell stories that either break us or make us. What if you could tell yourself more stories that make you? In our culture, we tend to experience our illnesses through our biology. And we often leave out or don't pay enough attention to the emotional and mental aspects of these diseases and illness. And one of the reasons that we often neglect these parts of our illness is because they conflict with our cultural story that the body, the physical, the physiological, is separate from the emotions and from the mental state. And we've learned to compartmentalize or put them in little boxes, each of these different parts, thinking that we can address just one of them and that's going to be enough. When in fact, we need to look at all of these boxes, reintegrate them to create a more cohesive, coherent whole. As I asked earlier, what if you could tell more stories that make you rather than the ones that break you? How would life be different? How would it unfold differently? In fact, how would you respond to the unfolding of life differently if you were telling yourself stories that make you? I'm going to put a link down below this video that will take you to a meditation hypnosis that I've created that will help you to create more stories that make you rather than those that break you. And it will help you to start rewiring and letting go of those old stories that no longer work. All of us are walking around with stories inside of us. We have told ourselves that life happens in a certain way for us. We identify with a certain perspective about us. It's how we project ourselves out into the world. We all have many stories and many different hats that we wear and project out into the world. There's brother, sister, father, mother, lover, doctor, lawyer, friend, confidant, whatever it might be. These are all stories about how we tell ourselves who we are and tell others who we are. And by telling others who we are, that tells them how to respond to us. And they will take it in and filter it through their stories. Many of the stories of our lives happened from a very young age, even right after birth. If we look at our culture and how we learned as young children or how we teach young children, it's through stories. Fairy tales, bedtime stories, all of these things are telling us how to act in the world, helping us create these internal stories mentally and emotionally about how to act in the world and how to tell people who we are. And remember, good stories are hypnotic and immersive. Have you ever been reading a book or watching a really good movie that had you so engrossed, so engaged, you completely forgot what time it was? I know. And do you have books or movies that you go back to time and again to watch or to read because you so enjoy the story? You so identify with some part of that story in a very strong way. And many of the stories are so engaging, so hypnotic that we totally get lost in the story and forget who we are and start to identify as one of the characters in the stories, in the book or the movie, whatever it might be. And oftentimes we'll even take little pieces of these characters and say, hey, I really like that aspect of that character, and we start to act more like that character. They often point to us where we want to make a change in our life, and so we'll try it on for size, just like putting on a coat or a new shirt or a new hat. We'll try it on for size, see how it responds out in the world, see how people respond to us acting in that particular way, playing out that story. One of the things that I have found is that the stories will find us. Oftentimes when we are very passionate or interested in something, all of a sudden life starts showing us more and more of whatever that thing is. For example, when I started researching stories, all of a sudden I was listening to a podcast And the guest that was on there, Esther Perel, who is a psychologist and has a psychotherapy practice, was talking about stories. So then I went and watched the video that she had on stories as well, and it helped inform this video that I'm making here and passing along the information and the knowledge to you about stories. And this happens over and over and over and over again. And when we become passionate about something and interested in it, it's almost as if we have a magnet with our mind that draws towards us, or draws us towards more of the same thing. We start to see the world through that particular lens. So as I was preparing for this video, I was starting to see and hear more stories in the world around me, listening to what patients and practice members were telling me as a story. What are the stories of our life? I'm not good enough. I don't know who I am. I don't trust life. I don't trust me, who I am in life. I don't feel safe in time and space. I'm anxious. I'm depressed. There's not enough of anything in the world. These are some of the stories that we carry around with us. And when we can start to change those stories into something more positive, something that makes us rather than breaks us, such as, I know who I am and why I'm here and what I'm made of. I am enough just as I am. Life is abundance. Then life starts to change because we start to see, hear, experience, feel the world from these stories that make us, which are empowering stories, versus seeing the world from those negative ones, the stories that break us, that are disempowering now. And remember, these stories served a purpose when we first created them. They helped us banish feelings of helplessness and hopelessness and enabled us to feel strong and courageous in that moment. When we were children, those stories made sense from a child's perspective. When we look at them from an adult perspective now and look back at them, we're like, that doesn't make any sense. Well, of course not. We're an adult now. We've got years of experience of growing up, and we now see the world differently than we did back over here when we were children and had a children's perspective on life. So as we start to make more adult decisions and create more adult stories for ourselves, then life starts to change, because those stories that served us as children don't have the energy, don't have the structure to support us and make more of our life now. We all have these stories that tell us why something happened and what it means. And what if you're trapped and stuck in your stories? How do you get out of it? How do you change it? Well, one of the ways you can do it is to seek help. A health professional, mental health professional, life coach, whatever it might be, neurostructural chiropractor, to help start to shift the nervous system. Because in order to shift these stories, we need a pliable, adaptable, resilient, flexible nervous system, which reflects in our mind and our ability to be open to new experiences and new models of the world. When we're trapped and stuck in a story, it's like this. If this was the model of our world, it's like stuck here and there's no room for it. But if we start to create some flexibility and adaptability in our nervous system, all of a sudden the grip starts to loosen a little bit. We don't have to control how life unfolds, because the truth is we can't control how life unfolds. The only thing that we can control is our response to how life is unfolding. So as we start to do that, our model of the world starts to loosen, and pop, the possibility of something new now available. And we can now create those stories that make us. As Esther Perel says, write often and edit well. You are the author of your own stories. Another reason that we want to rewrite our stories is because whatever we insist on or whatever we resist will persist. If we keep insisting, this is who I am, I can't change it, it doesn't work for me, I'm not worthy, blah, 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 all that stuff, we're gonna fight for our limitations, and you're gonna get them. It takes the same energy to fight for something new. So where do you want to put your energy? Fight for the same old, or do you want to fight for something new? And in fact, you don't even have to fight. Just choose something new. These stories of our life, as I mentioned earlier, serve a purpose. They were an adaptive response to a time in our life that was less than ideal circumstances or experience or plot in the story of our life at that time. They protected us and prevented us from getting hurt. And as children, they made sense. But as adults, we now have a whole lifetime experience and new ways of being able to adapt to our environment that we can now write a new story. And those old stories just don't serve. When we have a more adaptive, resilient, flexible, open nervous system, perspective on the world, stories about the world can change. To get started writing a new story in your life, click the link below for this meditation hypnosis from stories to solutions, and it will help you to start moving from stories that break you to rewriting stories that make you. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you again soon. Peace.